So by this part of the story, I'm pretty much fresh out of prison and dealing with the difficulties of parole and the difficulties of employment. So I was fortunate enough that a friend of mine had an air conditioning and heating business that he gave me a job with. So I was doing some manual labor with him for some time, but that wasn't gonna really cut it as far as what my goals and ambitions were. So I made a decision that I was gonna go into business for myself, knowing that the primary obstacle for people who want to do that is cash. I took advantage of some opportunities I had to borrow some money. I borrowed a significant amount of money and basically rolled the dice again and risked everything on the gamble that I'll be able to take that money and generate a lot more. And not only that, but pay it back as well. So I made a decision to do that. It happened to be a time where gold and silver were increasing in value greatly. I saw an opportunity in the market, so I started looking for a place. I ended up timing it correctly, and I had a business established and did very well in the precious metals business. So I'm involved in that to this day. I buy and sell precious metals to and from the public, along with diamonds as well. So once I established the first business, I was again very fortunate to be successful, and especially successful enough that I was able to open an additional location. And this part of the story is very important because what happens next, again, this is really irrelevant to business and finance aspect of it. The point of my whole story is the real lessons of what I learned in life and how God played a huge role in it. And so this is going to take us back to that a little bit. So I had planned the grand opening for my second location, and I had scheduled it for a Saturday afternoon where I was going to have the grand opening. So for some reason, on that Friday evening prior, it just came to me that I'm going to change it, and I'm going to no longer do it on Saturday. I'm going to cancel that, but I'm going to move it to Sunday and push it one day back. And again, it didn't make a lot of sense at that time because there was some planning involved and everything was set for Saturday. But nevertheless, I received that and I changed it to Sunday. Right before this time period in my life was a time where I started basically communicating with God in a different way. I started just asking Him to use me. I felt so indebted for my salvation and my removal from the life that I created for myself that I just wanted to give back in so many ways, in any way I could. And so I asked God to use me. And I say that because it's very relevant to the next part of the story. So I moved the grand opening to Sunday, and just as we started in the afternoon, I had a good friend of mine, actually the guy who was my co-defendant who took the 9 years. He was out. He was out on parole by this time, and he was actually working with me in my businesses. I had a job waiting for him, and we worked together well. So he was there also, and sometime after we began, there was a big commotion outside on the street. It was in a retail area. It was on a busy street, and it was basically I had the ground floor location, and there were residences above. So my friend comes banging on the door on the glass, telling me to come outside. Something's happening, and so I ran outside, and I saw this huge crowd of people, and I'm wondering what's going on. And he tells me something's happening above in one of the apartments above the store. So all of a sudden, I started hearing screaming, like really, really bad screaming. A female sounded like she was being butchered, really bad. And they told me that this screaming was going on for some time already. I couldn't believe nobody did anything. So the moment I assessed what was happening, I heard that, I ran into the building, and my friend followed, and we ran up 4 flights of stairs. And when we got to the apartment where the screaming was coming from, it turned out to be a drunk, sick fucking man trying to rape a 12-year-old girl. And so when I walked through that doorway, she just looked up and ran to me, and hugged me so tight. And it was just an unbelievable moment for me. I didn't know how to feel at that moment. I'd never experienced anything like that. I told my friend to take the girl downstairs to the store, and he took her down. He took care of her, and when that happened, me and this guy started fighting immediately. He just swung at me. We started fighting, and we tumbled down the first and then the second flight of stairs in him trying to get away. He had to get past me. There's only one way out, the way we came in. And so he and I are fighting and struggling. I know by now that my friend called the cops, and keep in mind that I was just off parole at this time. So normally I would never even call cops in this case. This would have been something I would have handled myself. But I was very nervous about the fact that I was just off parole and my past and everything. So I didn't want to get involved in any way. But in this case, it was my prayer and my asking God to use me that brought me to this place. So me and this guy are fighting in the hallway, and I remember I pinned him against the wall, and I was choking him and just trying to get him to stop because he was trying to run past me. And he looked right in my eyes, and he said to me, "Me and you could fix this. I have a lot of money." And I remember I just squeezed hard right on his fucking throat and looked him right in the eye and told him, "The best thing that happened to you is that the cops are on their way. Because me and you fixing this ourselves means you dying today, motherfucker. At my hands. You fucking dying. Because one of the things I hate more than anything in life is sick fucks. Any man who takes advantage of a woman or child, in my eyes, is the lowest. And fuck him." And so it was very hard for me not to hurt this man real bad. And so we struggled there for like 15 minutes. It took a long time before the cops came. By the time the cops came, again, that same friend came and banged on the glass door to tell me to come out, bring him out. The cops are there. So I brought him out to the cops, and the cops try handcuffing him, and they can't handcuff the guy. The guy's fighting with them and struggling still. And so now I'm even more nervous because there's cops all around me. And you know the history I have with police. I'm never at ease around them. But they couldn't handcuff him, and I just took it upon myself to just grab him. And I went behind him, and I grabbed him, I picked him up, and I just slammed him right on the sidewalk. And his head cracked, and blood leaked, and fuck him. And they handcuffed him and took him. And obviously the grand opening of the store was canceled and done for the day. The little girl, I immediately went and checked on her, and she was so traumatized and shaken by what happened. But thank God that it didn't actually. He didn't commit the act. He was so close to another minute, and it would have happened. And she asked me if I would go to the police department with her. She was alone. She was left alone at work. Her mom was working, and nobody was there. So I of course agreed. I went down to the police station and immediately revealed to them. I knew they were going to figure it out who I was, and that I just came out of prison recently and I'm just off parole. And they asked me a bunch of questions, and my friend ended up coming down as well. They asked him some questions also, along with the girl. So I ended up staying with her, and I remember what those cops told me that day. I was so nervous about having hit the guy and fought with him a little bit. I was so hesitant to hurt him, and they told me, the guy's in pretty bad shape. But the truth is, had he come in even worse, none of us would have ever considered doing anything to you because of it. And when he said that to me, I said, just open the cell that he's in, put me in there, give me fucking 3 minutes with him, and let me finish this fucker and punish him a little bit. And they said, they laughed, but they said they can't do that. But what they said to me then, one of the cops really hit me, and I took it as a great compliment. And he said, what you did was a great, great thing, because the truth of it is, had we responded and had one of our officers been there, behind that door, hearing those screams, he would have not went in alone. He would have not went in, and our guys have guns, and they would have not went in. They would have waited, and the girl would have been raped. So, it impacted me greatly when he said that, and I realized then that this was, God's answer to my prayers to him to use me. And the little girl and I developed an unbelievable relationship that we retain to this day. I mean, she just turned 17 now, and I became her godfather on her 13th birthday, and I'm very close with her, and I will continue to be forever, because we went through something that was just an unbelievable thing together, and we've bonded in a way that will remain. and I love her very much, and I'm very glad that I was able to help her. And I remember that evening, after all the commotion and hours at the police station, finally getting home, and I was discussing what happened with someone, and I remembered what I said, and I said, I took a big chance in life, and I invested a lot of money into this new business venture with this new store, but what just happened today changed my entire perspective on it. My new perspective is I don't give a fuck if I never make a dollar in this business. If I lose every dollar that I invested, uh, I have no issue with that because what just happened today is so much more important than money and business and finance and any bullshit like that. And I would gladly pay that money and every dollar I have to protect any young child from sexual assault, especially any type of abuse. So I was very fortunate that God was able to put me in that position on that Sunday rather than the Saturday, and be able to help this girl, because that was really the first time in my life that I had any real sense of purpose. I finally felt good about something, and I realized then that the real answer for me to move past all the dark times and difficulties and the nightmares that I have and the bad memories is to live my life in a way that is more sacrificial in the sense that I do for others before I do for me. And so I really made it a point to try to help everybody I can. I always did, but even more so now. And so that was really life altering for me. And I'm very grateful to have been there. And again, I give all the credit to God. It was just an amazing thing. And thank God that she was okay. So that's that part of the story.